Alrighty, everyone. Let's continue. It's DSP versus the Internet, episode 53. We're still in the Ultra member submissions. Part 2. Let's continue on and see what else the Ultra members had for us to watch this week. Here we go.
About a year ago, I had a job at GameStop because, yeah, I'm a gamer. That's when I got this hoodie. It didn't come like this, though.
Oh, man.
Weird. It's also when I got this Master Chief. He's supposed to be on a Warthog right now, and I didn't download CS Source. It was a seasonal job, though, so I was let go in early January. Then not even 2 weeks went by, and I got into a terrible accident. I'm not really going to get into it, but let's just say that I was hit by a large vehicle. I lost my arm, broke my leg, got a brain injury, and the surgery for the brain injury gave me a receding hairline. It sucked! After the initial shock of, my arm's gone! I started thinking, wait, can I play video games? Is my favorite hobby gone forever? Tears of the Kingdom came out shortly after, and Link loses his arm in that game. Like, what? I was really looking forward to that game, but I couldn't play it. But I did have this Xbox. As of recording this, Xbox is the only console with an adaptive controller. One for the PS5 was just announced, though. You hear that, Nintendo?
Yeah, the PS5 one is announced, and I think it's in testing phase right now among certain gamers. In fact, did we not just see a video of it a couple months ago that it's in testing phases and it will be released soon, but it's not out yet?
Get with the times. Link is technically disabled. Let him play on his Switch after he takes off his prosthetic arm that's actually just another dude's arm and he's just a stub. Come on. Here's the Xbox adaptive controller. You got an A and B button, you got a D-pad, start and select. And what I did is that I plugged in all of these external buttons for my feet.
Ah.
Yeah, you can plug in joysticks, but with one arm, you can't control two joysticks at the same time. Unless? On the official website for the Xbox adaptive controller, there's something advertised called the Logitech Extreme 3D Pro. It has one big joystick and then a little one at the top. Perfect. So I ordered it.
A double joystick. Thumbstick? Whoa. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, like a flight style stick. You could control two sticks at once. You could technically play like a first-person shooter with one stick in one hand. Wow, I never even thought of that.
And the top joystick didn't work. I tried everything, so I called Logitech customer support. Hey, so I plugged in my Logitech Extreme 3D Pro into my Xbox adaptive controller and...
Did you just say the Xbox adaptive controller?
Yeah, the website said
that joystick only works on Windows, you idiot.
Haha.
Okay, they weren't shitty about it, but they did say that this thing only works on Windows, so... What's going on? It's still on the website. Congratulations, Microsoft. I'm giving you a sarcastic
That is fucked
clap
up, man.
right now. Pretend that I am. Congratulations for giving me hope and then taking it away.
That's fucked up. Why would they have it mislabeled on the site? So people who are disabled buy the joystick. It's probably expensive, and it doesn't fucking work. That's fucked up. They better fix that shit. Hopefully when they saw this video, they fixed it. Because it got 2.4 million views.
I had to return the thing and cry. But I did find something else. This guy, Akaki, makes 3D printed controller add-ons to make them one-handed. And here's mine for Xbox.
Whoa!
All the buttons can be pressed with my left hand, and the right stick can be controlled with this little thing at the bottom. You can use my stub, or I can use my leg. It's a brilliantly made thing. I appreciate the craftsmanship a lot. But it's not very easy to use. Mostly because of the right stick. Feels very awkward to use, like you have a lack of control. It's hard to describe. You also can't assemble the thing with one hand, and it blocks the charging port. So every time that it's done charging, I need help from a two-handed fellow, which is annoying.
That does suck.
Luckily, I had another option. The hospital that I stayed at recovering from my accident referred me to a university where, for final projects, freshman engineering students can make products for people with disabilities. Hell yeah! It's way too hot in this room. But I think the test that I gave them was way too hard. These guys were freshmen, and I told them to make me a product that could give me the ability to play FPS games on Xbox. So yeah, I suck. Here I got some gizmos, some gadgets, maybe a doodad, we'll see. Now I'm not insulting these students in any way, don't get the wrong idea. I couldn't make any of this stuff, and I'm very, very grateful. That being said though, this shit sucks, I'm sorry. So this here they called the Dorito controller. It's basically doing what the Logitech controller didn't. One joystick here, the other joystick here, some buttons here, some buttons that fell off there. Much like a real Dorito, though, it has very sharp edges. It's not ergonomic at all. I don't think that was part of the assignment, though. Okay, what is
so
going
basically it's the Logitech controller insanely bootleg made by a college student on limited resources, and it's not functional. Okay.
On here. Oh yeah, this is called the. It says this one doesn't have a name. I'll make up my own name. This one's called the nipple. So basically, what you gotta do is you strap it to your armchair.
Huh.
And then this basically controls the right joystick on an Xbox controller. Yeah, it's not very comfortable, but they did ask me if it would be comfortable, and I said yes, so that's on me. So yeah, nipple. Uncomfortable nipple. It's my new band. Put up the first album art here. Wow. That's stupid. I'm not gonna put that in. So this is the last one, and holy moly.
Damn.
So
a lot of cables.
Basically like it's a one-handed controller that's supposed to be used with the nipple. So you got a joystick over here, some buttons right here, some buttons right here, some buttons right here. Ow. So yeah, these all work.
So basically, if these ideas were given to a company that had budget and the company redesigned them to be smooth, ergonomic, and safe, they might work. But it was just a bunch of college students brainstorming. So, of course, they did what they could with limited resources and money. And the ideas are sound, just the execution is poor. Okay.
Not very well. Now at this point I was like, it is so over. But I was looking around online one day and I saw a video of some guy MacGyvering a mouse and keyboard together. Then in the suggested videos I saw something called the Azeron Cyborg, which is a one-handed keyboard for gaming. I was like, oh man, this would be perfect if it was also a mouse. So I went on Azeron's website to see if they had what I was looking for, and they did. Introducing the Azeron Cyro, a one-handed mouse and keyboard for gaming. It took about a month to be built and shipped from Latvia. You could use it as a mouse. This joystick controls WASD. And you got some buttons that you can bind to anything. It works super, super well. My only complaints would be that a lot of the parts are 3D printed, so it's not very durable. I also recently started having problems with the scroll wheel. And I saw another video where this guy was having hardware issues, so it's not perfect. Also, if you're mostly a console gamer, you'll have to switch to PC for the most part.
Yeah.
Ignoring all that, though, this is the best way to play games one-handed. I've been playing Minecraft. I just beat Portal 2 for the billionth time.
Wow, cool.
I just bought the Battle Pass in Fortnite so I can unlock Peter Griffin.
Hello, Peter. Welcome to Fortnite.
It's actually a godsend. It was a gift from Dives. That's God in Latvian. He was the god of the sky and the ruler of the gods in Baltic mythology. Yeah. He also created the Azeron Cyro so Charlie could play Half-Life 2 after his arm got amputated. For many, many months, I was trying to find the answer to my gaming problem, and this is it. All of my occupational therapists didn't even know this thing existed. And I think I know why. Azeron doesn't advertise this as an accessibility thing. There's this picture on their website where it's like, look, you can game in one hand and have a drink in the other.
Right.
And I know you want a big market, I get that. But let me be real.
No, here's the truth, is that accessibility in gaming is still a very, very, very new thing. People are, or I should say people, companies are just starting to understand that this is something that's important and should be focused on. But I feel like what it is, it's the afterthought. The companies are so focused on just making the game, making it functional and making it profitable, that the accessibility is like the last thing on the checklist of things. And if they have extra time and resources to sink into it, then they will. But let's be honest, how many major games really have full accessibility? Almost none. It's rare when you get a game like The Last of Us 2 that actually had so many levels of accessibility, right? So I'm not surprised that a company like this made a device that actually is amazing for accessibility gains, but no one actually knows that it's accessible or that it could be used for that. You know what I'm saying? What I am disappointed in is that Xbox accessibility controller wasn't so good. Like he said, he tried using it and it just wasn't that good. So, you know, that sucks ass. I wish that it was, you know, because everyone should be able to game. Everyone should be able to have a level of accessibility to most games. There's always going to be some games that maybe are too difficult for accessibility purposes, right? So I get that. But for the most part, everyone should be able to enjoy gaming. There shouldn't be some giant hurdle to play. And so just because you have a disability doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to enjoy yourself with video games, right? But again, you know, I hate to say it. Here's the problem: profitability. A company would look at something like this and say, marketing our product to people who are handicapped or you know, otherwise hindered from enjoying games to the fullest because of some kind of physical thing, this isn't going to be profitable for us, right? We're not going to get enough sales out of that to cater towards that group. And that's why they don't do it. And that's why you don't see so many accessibility products, because they think they're too expensive to make. They're not going to have enough sales to warrant it. And that's sad, because it is a problem, in my opinion. Okay? Like, there should be an actual care. I mean, maybe at some point we have to stop thinking just in the realm of everything has to be a bottom line, giant, profitable product. And sometimes we just want to do things that are morally right. But again, in order to do that, you have to be a company that's probably in a good financial position that you can do that. You know, like you always hear about these companies, oh, we donated $1 million to this, we donated $1 million to that. Instead of donating the $1 million, why not design accessibility products? Right? I'm just saying. Maybe that's what you do with it. I don't know. Anyway. All right. That was fascinating. I like that video. Let's continue. So, by the way, so this is a very old video, about 13 years old. I know who Desk is from the fighting game community. This is a guy who back in the day used to do so many different technical tests of things in fighting games. He would be the technical guy who would micro-analyze things in fighting games and try to find creative ways to do things and stuff. So he would never was like, he's not a high pro level player. He's the guy who, almost like an oddball guy, but well known in the community for doing these kind of things. So playing Street Fighter 3 against myself. At the old Street Fighter 3, this is online edition for consoles at the time. Amazing. Look at this. With one hand, he's playing Street Fighter 3. I mean, you can imagine the amount of setup it took to do this stuff. Like, he probably had to practice this endlessly to get this kind of stuff to work, right? Of course he's gonna pull it. Of course he's gonna do the combo into the super in the corner. Of course he will. Why wouldn't he? He's basically doing all these incredibly difficult things to do. Look at this. So he baits the parry super, or the counter super, into a giant corner combo punish. Here we go. Look at this, right through. Yes, makes it so that the fireball passes right through. Look at that. He's basically showing off all the like some super difficult things to do in the game while doing it with one hand. It's pretty funny. So, while the rest of the fighting game community 13 years ago were all scraping on the internet for popularity, and they were trying to get views on their gameplay videos, and the streaming was just starting to take off, and people were trying to get noted for streams, this guy was doing this kind of video. I mean, he was doing completely different kinds of content. I don't know how much people watch his stuff today, but I know that he was well known for this at one point. I mean, 461,000 views for a video like this is great, right? Pretty damn cool. Let's go to the end, because I think at the end he does the Evo moment. Yeah, here it is. He's going to do the Evo moment, I think. No, he's not? He doesn't do it? Oh. Oh, this is just the credits? Oh. Or is it? Oh, here it is. Evo moment at the end. Recreating the Daigo versus Justin Wong moment, all with one hand each. There it is. Pretty cool. Pretty darn cool. Pretty creative, too, to think to do something like that. Okay, let's continue.
Ever see a topic pop up in discussion online and it just spins off so wildly you can't help but feel the need to speak on it? Yes? No? Well, either way, that's what I'm doing here. If you've been perusing gaming social media circles the past week and change, particularly Twitter, you'll have seen a major rise in the speculation around the Switch 2, and it makes sense as to why. The OG Nintendo Switch turns 7 in less than 2 months, which by most metrics means the console's life is coming to a close, and soon we'll be preparing for the successor. As a result, plenty of rampant rumors have sprung up across the internet. Whether legit or total bullshit, we have no idea. Most claiming to know the Switch 2's battery life, RAM, internal storage, release date, internal components, the works.
All bullshit.
Again,
Always
whether
bullshit.
any of these are actually true,
Always
we won't
completely
know
made
until
up.
Nintendo themselves reveal it. But all of these interweaving rumors and leaks have culminated in one prevailing consensus, and it's that the Switch 2 will be about as powerful as the PlayStation 4. And of course...
Hold on, before we continue with this, Astronaut in the chat says, I never understood why the Daigo parry in Street Fighter 3 was hyped. Didn't they have it in Street Fighter 3 Collection? Most people could do it. Because he did it on the fly in the middle of a tournament. This was not, I'm sitting in training mode practicing it endlessly to master the timing. He literally on the fly did it in the biggest possible competitive moment ever. Like, there's never another time someone would do it in life that it would be more pertinent than in that tournament. At that time, two of the best players in the world and being able to pull it off and not fuck up. That's why. It's not the fact that he did it. It's that he did it at EVO in this giant tournament and won the match because of it. That's why.
Of course, when that little nugget got planted in everyone's heads, the Twitter space absolutely ran away with it. That console's 10 years old. How is Nintendo so incapable of standards? This will never compete with the modern systems. And it was that last point in particular that really got me thinking. The idea that because the Switch 2 will be noticeably weaker than the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, it won't be able to compare and thus will flop. Never mind how much this ignores the history of console success and how power often has very little to do with dominating the market. Never mind the fact that Switch 1 was already an underpowered system in its own right and went on to become the best-selling video game system of the past 15 to 20 years. But biggest of all, never mind the fact that the Switch 2 just needs to have a decent game lineup within its first 1 or 2 years of its life, and it will already be on solid ground compared to its contemporaries. Because in truth, despite the past couple minutes saying otherwise, this video is not about the Switch 2.
Right.
We don't have enough concrete information on it, and I don't think it's worth delving deeper into it until we have
Good.
some.
Wow. A person who makes videos on YouTube with a brain. I'm not going to make speculative videos about it for clickbait because it doesn't make sense because we have no information. This guy has my respect.
Rather, it's about the consoles the system will be competing with on the market, and how even despite its likely weaker status, I believe it will have no issue staking claim in the gaming
No, it won't.
landscape. Because it ain't that hard when the rest of that landscape is a barren fucking wasteland.
Yeah, he's right. Look at that, a generation of nothing. Yeah, he's absolutely
Now,
right.
I do want to preface right off the bat,
outside of maybe like games you can count on two hands, what amazing exclusives have come out for either PS5 or Xbox Series S and X since they launched, right? I mean, you could probably say the God of War, right? Okay, God of War. For a few months, Halo Infinite, but that doesn't even exist anymore. So that's kind of like an asterisk entry, right? There was the Demon's Souls remaster. I guess you can argue, but it's a remaster. It's not even like an original game, right? Like, okay, Fred Rogers says Spider-Man 2. That's a good one, I would argue, actually. Spider-Man 2 was quite good. No, not Ratchet & Clank. Don't even say that because Ratchet & Clank is not a great game. It literally plays like all the other Ratchet & Clanks with better graphics. It was completely misrepresented when it was marketed. It was nothing revolutionary, and it gets boring halfway through. It's not a great game. Horizon Forbidden West, I mean, you could say that, but Horizon Forbidden West is just Horizon Zero Dawn with better graphics and a few tweaks. In fact, there's some things they went backwards on, and it did not sell nearly as well as they wanted, so you can't even argue that that was like a system seller, right? Gran Turismo 7, I don't know. That, I literally cannot say a word about Gran Turismo. I've never played it, so I have absolutely no clue how it's done. Forza, I mean, there's been a few Forza games, right? For the Switch, or the Switch, oh my god. For the Series S and X, since they launched, but I don't know how well they sold. I'm not sure that they sold that well. I've actually heard that that last Forza that came out in the fall actually did poorly. That's actually what I've heard. That it legit did way poorly compared to what they had expected it to do, which is sad. So when you're really thinking, like, wow, okay, big, giant console exclusive games, there haven't been that many. Most are cross-platform, most are third-party games that are the best ones in the last 5 to 10 years, really. And maybe you could argue some of the ones coming up, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, probably will be the biggest one. Like, no exaggeration, I actually think that will be the best-selling PS5 exclusive. I think it's going to destroy sales numbers. But outside of that, I actually don't think there's been many or any good ones. So this guy has a valid point. A whole console generation, but what games did they really create for us that were unique to those consoles? Pretty much nothing.
Collective whole, the 9th generation has been far from a failure or even truly a disappointment. I know many are going to label me a fanboy for making this video, and thus should make it clear this video isn't meant to just blindly rip on PlayStation and Xbox. This is more me getting a lot of gripes I've had with this specific generation off my chest and how poorly I believe it's been laid out. When looked at as an entire front, there have been some very damn good titles these past 3 years and change during the 9th generation's earlier days. God of War Ragnarok, Tales of Arise, Hi-Fi Rush, Resident Evil 4, Scarlet Nexus, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Alan Wake 2, Lies of P, Armored Core 6, Elden Ring. There's been no lack of high-quality titles to play overall. However, that's when you're talking about the entire gaming atmosphere as a complete unit.
Right.
When you boil it down to the individual consoles of this generation and what they have to offer of value towards themselves specifically, good luck rummaging through those scraps.
I can make this work.
The 9th generation has become synonymous with two things: having legitimately impressive load times that make them near non-existent, and having exclusive libraries that are just as non-existent. You don't have to look far to see how many jokes there are thrown around about these consoles' exclusive lineups. PS5 has no games has existed as a meme for multiple years now and doesn't appear to be slowing down. And Xbox, they don't even get the privilege of having a joke because barely anyone even expected anything out of them. Now, console exclusives as a topic have become admittedly divisive in recent years. Many have begun to argue that they are anti-consumer and it's best for everyone if all games were made available everywhere. While that is true in a sense, it doesn't take into account the whole picture. Here's the thing. If all games were made available everywhere, there would be no point in having 3 different boxes to play them on, plus the PC. Why have multiple consoles when there's no justifiable reason to own them on the aspect of their games? The fact is, console exclusives are what define each system, generation, and era of gaming at the time. SNES versus Genesis had their biggest titles pitted against each other constantly. The PS1 took advantage over the N64 by having most third-party games be exclusive to it. And the PS4 all but dominated the Xbox One, not just because of the latter's horrendous start, but because it had practically no worthwhile experiences of its own, while the former had plenty. But now, just one generation removed from that dominance by exclusives, it feels as though neither side has learned anything or capitalized from it. Some people seem to get upset when you say the PS5 has no games, but if you're talking exclusives, it is not an exaggeration, at least as of right now. The Wikipedia article on this console is damning, listing off its exclusives. There are 12 pure exclusives for—
Wow, here we go. So this is what we were actually just talking about. We wanted our answers. Here's the pure exclusive PS5 games. Astro's Playroom, which is the package-in game that comes with it. The Dark Pictures Switchback VR. I didn't even know that existed, so there's a Dark Pictures VR game. Demon's Souls 2020 Remake. Destruction All-Stars, and we all know how that went. It was a huge flop that even being a PS Plus game failed. It sucked ass. I played it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is not out yet, but about to be out. Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is the VR game. Marvel's Wolverine, not out yet. Quantum Error, not out yet. Rise of the Ronin, not out yet. Spider-Man 2, okay, that was good. Stellar Blade, not out yet. And Truxton Extreme. What the hell is that? What is that game? I don't even know what that is. So, it's funny because someone said, what about Horizon Forbidden West? It's PC now. So now it's not considered an exclusive anymore. That's why it's not on this list. Probably Spider-Man will eventually be ported too, I would bet. I would think Astro's Playroom, no. The VR games probably no. Demon's Souls, is, you would think maybe they would eventually do PC port, but I guess not.
For the PlayStation 5. 12 of them. One of which being a pack-in tech demo, another being a remake, 2 being VR, and 5 not even having actually released at the time of this video. I can fit the entirety of this list in a single screenshot from my iPhone. Bear in mind, we are over 3 years into this generation's life cycle, and console gens usually last around 7 to 8 years. We're fast approaching the 50% mark of this console and barely have enough exclusives in it to justify 2 worthwhile calendar years. Even if you bring on games that have been ported to the PC like Ratchet and Returnal that boost the games list by, what, 3 at most? It's insane to me how a company whose exclusives massively launched them over their competition last gen can barely get any out to save their lives. Although not sure if that's better or worse than a company who had their mistakes in that department laid bare
Yep.
and still didn't learn from them.
The
Xbox, what are you doing?
What's the big fucking deal? What the fuck are we doing out here? I asked you, what in the fuck are we doing here?
You heard for the entirety of the X-Bone that your games lineup was not up to standard and was the primary reason the PS4 whipped your ass, only to completely continue this asinine trend. The PS5 may be the primary target of the no games joke, but that's only because it's worth joking about, and it at least has a scrap here and there like Spider-Man 2. The Series X and S, so little was expected of them and they've arguably still underperformed. Again, this console's 4th year is now underway, and what does it have to show for it? Every game that was hyped up as a big deal for them is either still not out or has come up shockingly short. Halo Infinite had a very strong early push
Yep,
and people
and then
really enjoyed
dead.
the campaign. Until they massively bungled the roadmap of multiplayer and people left in droves. Starfield had some notably positive reception right out of the gate. Until people really noticed Bethesda's antiquated design and opinions of that game continued to dip by the month. And Redfall?
Meh. Yes. What an amazing game. This is exactly how the game was, because I told you Kat played it when it came out at first, because I wasn't going to play it. She did on Game Pass. Literally, so that enemy would be above you, just floating in the air, standing like this, T-posing. And then when you walked up to it, the enemy would drop and actually animate and start attacking you. You could see all the enemies in the street just standing above, T-posing like this in the sky. And they released it like that. What the
The
fuck?
less said, the better. I'll give them that they do have some games on the horizon that look promising. The Indiana Jones game is certainly intriguing, and I honestly think the more we see of Avowed, the more that's going to be one of the most unsung hits of the generation.
I like
but
it
it
too.
should not be taking near 4 fucking years for us to finally get some titles that make these systems feel worth the cash. It's been made all the worse by just how much the cross-generation window has extended this go-around. Here's the thing about cross-gen titles. On the one hand, it is very consumer-friendly. It allows less immediately fortunate gamers to keep up with the current releases without having to rush to buy the next piece of hardware. However, the trade-off is that it ultimately takes value away from the new hardware, because what's the point of upgrading when you could still play these games on the old system? Which that point has only been further exacerbated by how little graphics and technology have advanced with each passing of the torch.
Yep.
Thus, several games which could have been a big boost for the new consoles like God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Forbidden West
split.
have that big exclusivity trump card slip through their hands. I will admit that points more up to your own interpretation on what you value, but in a generation that's starving for notable system sellers, it only further drives the issue home.
So, okay. So let's end it here. But I mean, in summary, here's the deal. He's right. And the reason for it is very simple. Other console generations were full all in. New console, new generation, new exclusives, buy the new console. This console gen was not full all in. And you could argue there's different reasons. I think one of the major things was COVID. Because when COVID happened, the world shut down. They could not produce enough consoles. People didn't have the money to go buy the consoles. There's scarcity all over the internet. You couldn't get them. So these developers were forced to take a step back and say, okay, our big games now have to be cross-platform. They still have to be on PS4. They still have to work with the old Xbox, or else if we don't push for full, you have to have the new console. Like God of War Ragnarok would have been atrociously bad of sales because no one could get a PS5 at that time. People wanted the PS5 and couldn't get it. Remember? That's how bad it was. You had to buy it from a scalper or someone online charging $1,000, right? It was awful. So yeah, for me, I agree with this guy. I just think that it was a unique situation. Now 4 years into the life of these consoles, right? Abso-freaking-lutely, there is no excuse. In Microsoft's case, it's simply because they bought a bunch of studios up, but then they didn't enforce any standards. So you buy a bunch of studios, but you let them do whatever they want, you're going to get a Redfall, right? You're going to get a dog shit game like that where no one cares about the quality and it comes out and it's a piece of junk, right? But that's the problem. They're so hands-off that this is going to continue to happen. Look at Starfield, and they were really heavily pushing that one as their big baby, and it comes out, and it's probably on par, if not worse, than previous Bethesda outings. So how did you not know it was that bad, but you own them, right? I don't get it. How do you not know? So in Microsoft, it's not that they're not trying, it's that they just don't, they're not exerting enough control over the studios they own to make sure the games are good. Sony, I have no clue. I legit have no idea. They are the market leader for this console gen besides Switch, but Switch is really not even a direct competitor with these style of games, right? So what is Sony doing or thinking? I couldn't even answer that. Like, Microsoft has an excuse. It's a bad excuse, but it's still an excuse or a rationale. I don't know why Sony would have no exclusive games, but they really don't. And even now, the big announcements recently, Microsoft is taking some previous exclusives and making them PC games. PlayStation has announced that we are going to do this. We're going to take a lot of our exclusives and turn them into PC games at this point, right? So that really kills me. Cypress says, well, COVID killed a lot of games' momentum because a lot of games would have already come out, but they got delayed because of COVID. You could be right there. I think we're in a very unique situation. COVID really changed a lot of things around the world, and this is one of them. Like, gaming's momentum and cycle changed with COVID. And it'll be curious to see with the next console gen, if we don't have another worldwide pandemic, how will it go? Right? All right. Ladies and gents, thanks for watching part 2. Let's now end and get ready for part 3 of the show. I thank you all. I'll see you in the next part. Peace out.